Welcome to the Incredible Rogues Gallery. I am your host, Chu, and my brother to the right of me is the co-host, Dino. What's up, brother?
All right, man. A whole lot of crazy stuff going on this week,
Definitely. Gotta
Yeah,
be on
so-
your P's and Q's out here, man.
yeah, definitely. Especially with some of the events that came up today. So let's dive right into this, man. So
Absolutely.
last week we touched on whether or not the FBI was complicit in the Gretchen Whitmer plot. That's a tongue tire there. And we brought up a whole bunch of past situations where it was fairly obvious that they were entrapping people, and even some undercover situations in local police departments. Well, lo and behold, what do we find? The FBI allegedly used at least 12 informants in the Michigan kidnapping case. But if you read farther down on here, you even find out that they only indicted 6 people after that. Says that there was maybe 8 or more in the periphery, in the outside, and the planning, but only 6 people went down. It takes 12 people to nail 6. To me, it's sort of like, at what point are you no longer investigating, and are you the instigator? That's my issue with this for sure.
Also, they were using entrapment methods as well in that case, right?
Yes, they were. Mm-hmm.
So the FBI is back to their dirty tricks.
I don't think they ever stopped. So yeah, they're back to it. All right. For sure. Yeah. And then, so, we're tying this into what we said last week about was the FBI involved in the January 6th issue, So I think all of these things are going to be coming out, and it's going to make a lot more sense to everybody as to what's really going on.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe if the FBI was involved in this Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot, then why is it so hard to believe that they weren't involved in January 6th riot, knew it, they played a role in the planning of it, in the execution of it. So I don't understand people, if it's not on CNN, they don't believe it. So
that's pretty much what it is, man. You're absolutely right about that. So what's the next thing we got here? We just want to touch on these first 2 things because we got a whole bunch of new stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So we're just going to do some updates real quick from previous streams we have done. And what's right now going on, we're going to do an update on this. So before, right, on episode 2, we discussed how Van Jones, why was he at this billionaire summer camp, right? We asked that question. Like Kwame Brown says, Stephen A., what you were doing at them high schools, boy? We were asking Van Jones, what were you doing at this camp, boy? So here we got this article from the Daily Mail. We posted this last time, right? So basically, this article from Daily Mail said that Van Jones he attended this meeting here with the billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Gayle King, Anderson Cooper. As you can see, he's real happy to be there, Where is it at? It should be right somewhere around here. Anyways,
Daily Mail's tons of pictures.
yeah, tons of pictures of a bunch of people I do not like. So I just want to find the part where it says Van Jones was in attendance. It's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, so anyways, he was there in attendance, and Jeff Bezos was there, right? This is 2 weeks ago, by the way. So now we find out Bezos is donating $100 million each to CNN contributor Van Jones and chef Jose Andres, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we now know why he was at the billionaire summer camp. Not only do they do the bidding of these billionaires, as you know, Jeff Bezos owns a portion of the Washington Post.
I think he owns the whole thing, man.
Oh, so he owns the whole.
I'm pretty sure he owns the whole thing. Yep.
Yeah. So
it's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even worse. So we had to start understanding that these people They're not our friends. Never will be. Why the hell was Van Jones there, bruh? We find out why. But we do know this type of money comes with strings attached. So what you got to say about that?
Oh, it's what I say about these guys all the time. You just said strings attached. There's no doubt these guys don't do anything without some sort of even if it's not a direct profit motive, we'll just say some kind of motive. I think anytime you see one of these rich guys doing something, you got to find out why did they do it. We also brought up a couple of episodes back how Bill Gates was trying to fund a charter school system. And as soon as it really didn't go his way, he just bailed on them. So the intent as to why these guys are funding things, I think, is one of the most important things. If they're funding it out of true benevolent motives, then everything should end up fine, but I don't think that that's why they're doing it. I think Bezos definitely has an edge on this for something, but we're not going to find out what until it's too late.
Now, the interesting thing in the CNN article, it says that Bezos says that Jones and Andreas was free to do what they want with the money. They can give it all to charity or they can share the wealth. It's up to them. So you never see billionaires doing philanthropy on this kind of level. Just here, I don't care what you do with the money. Usually when billionaires give money up, they want to know where every cent is going.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very weird that this would be happening.
Well, I tell you a much older example of this. John Rockefeller, way back in I don't know, maybe the 30s or whatever, especially during the Depression, used to walk around handing out dimes to people. Back then a dime was worth obviously so much more, but he was just handing out dimes to everybody. And, he didn't check on, like we say, where was it going? What was it being used for? Whatever. However, it was being done as a PR stunt because the world was already seriously turning on him and his oil empire and so forth. So this was supposedly to change his image. So you always got to factor that in too, that this is a big possibility.
So we're just going to move on to the next segment. And we're going to talk about Sleepy Joe's latest fumbles, right? So Joe Biden's been all over the news recently. So fumble number one, right? Biden says high inflation is temporary. Economists aren't sure, right? So the Biden administration has been promising that inflation is not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. But then the Fed chairman, Powell, he comes out and is not very optimistic about that projection. So here we go. Wrong article. Fed Chairman Powell, next 6 months crucial for inflation. Federal Reserve Chairman Jeremy Powell on Wednesday downplayed the recent string of high readings of inflation, telling Congress the price pressures will likely abate, right? So, and this is coming off of an increase by 5.4% on the year-to-year basis in June, the fastest pace since August 2008. So not only do we have inflation right up on our necks, the government best idea is to print out more money. As you can see, the first child tax credit is something that the Biden administration is working on. Not only that, Republicans blocked $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. I believe the Democrats wanted $4 trillion, was it?
I think so.
Yeah, so now it's at $1 trillion and it was blocked by the Republicans. So not only do you have inflation, you have also the government printing money, the COVID payments. This goes along with it. So another one of Joe Biden's fumble was, so small business owners are feeling the repercussions of this. Majority of workers in America are home, sitting on their butts, receiving a paycheck. So Biden's message to them is, well, to pay them more, right? So here we go. We got a restaurant owner saying, "Do you want to pay $50 for a hamburger, Joe?" Furious restaurant owners vent at Biden for telling them to raise wages, which they say will lead to more inflation and drive them all out of business. Now, we discussed this topic, I believe, in episode 1, if you can remember, Dino. So, what's your take on the rise of inflation, the Biden administration downplaying it, and the most likely income outcome for these small businesses?
Okay, so I think that there's a couple of different angles here. You had mentioned the printing of money, and you could make an argument saying that that's not, directly inflation. Inflation is prices rising, but it's the perception of prices rising because the dollar that you have has less purchasing power. So therefore it costs more. There's the price increase, and that's what happens when you print more money. If there's more of it, just like a scarcity and anything else, when there's more of it, it's worth less, As far as the $50 hamburger and having to raise wages, I'm going to come at this from a different angle here. But of course, I'm going to say he's just, completely full of it. Raising their wages.
Of course, the guy's full of it, but I get his point that if the trend continues as we see with gas or we see with lumber and the housing markets, all these prices have drastically increased from the previous year. So elaborate more on that.
Well, where I was heading is something else that Biden said in that conversation. The way he put it was you'd be able to hire more people, more people would apply for these jobs if you offered to pay them more, but that's not what's happening. There's a lot of people missing from the workforce because of the stimulus payments. I can tell you right now, I won't name the place because I don't want to, either promote or put them down, whatever. But there's a burger joint that I frequent, and there is a very sarcastic sign on the door saying, "We have to change our hours. They don't want to overwork the few employees that they have left because they can't get anybody to work." 2 grocery stores right here are going through the same thing. So I think that they're masking the actual problem by saying that it's something else. It's not wages. It's the fact that people aren't working because they're being incentivized not to.
So with businesses like Walmart, Costco, Target, et cetera, these businesses are able to pay their employees $15, $16, $17 an hour. Unfortunately, these smaller businesses aren't. So what do you think is the end game for the Biden administration via the big business aspect of it?
It's a big business takeover, just like we were talking about John D. Rockefeller just a few minutes ago, handing out dimes. It's because the oil monopoly had taken over everything and run out all of the smaller oil companies. That's what we're looking at now. Except what really bugs me the most about this is that we're allowing it. If you don't order something from Amazon, they can't take over. Look at the number of small businesses, whether it was, bookshops, toys, whatever, or even not small businesses, but not behemoths like Amazon or Walmart. Look how many of them are gone because people are ordering things. We're creating this monster, and I think it's up to us to stop it.
Absolutely. So another recent Joe Biden fumble, he made headlines when he made this remark. So I'm gonna play this video for you guys real quick. Let's see right here.
Of COVID disinformation.
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
Facebook responding in a statement saying, quote, "We've partnered with government experts, health authorities, and researchers to take aggressive action against misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccines to protect public health. So far, we've removed more than 18 million pieces of COVID misinformation, removed accounts that repeatedly break these rules, and connected more than 2 billion people to reliable information about COVID."
So he's accusing Facebook of killing people, right? And this is a classic move that the government loves to attempt. The pivot move, which they ignore more significant problems and use this hyperbole and say Facebook is killing people, right? So last year in 2020, US overdose death hit a record 93,000 in 2020 during the pandemic. Now that's a 30% increase than their typical numbers, right? So you have all this fentanyl coming in from China. We have rappers popularizing drug paraphernalia, taking drugs, being drug users. So what do you think about that, Dino?
Oh, I've been complaining about the opioid epidemic for quite a while now. This whole COVID thing, talking about it's for your health, protect your health, put on the mask, get vaccinated, or whatever. Oh, and by the way, here's some Krispy Kreme, here's some Krispy Kreme for a vaccine. Most of the people that have these comorbidities are usually obese or diabetic. And so what are they doing? Again, offering Krispy Kreme. And I think at one point, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were even offering beer.
Yeah, they're offering beer, a chance to win $1 million.
Right, a lottery, yeah.
Probably an autograph from LeBron James.
Yeah.
What else would there? What else would a sheep want?
Right, and you mentioned the pivot move, and that was a good way to put it. And that's just like what we had earlier. Biden talking about wages when the actual problem is just the lack of workers. So
Absolutely.
Just like you said with this, they always mask it with another issue.
Absolutely. Now, to be fair, Biden recently recanted his statements and he later clarified. So I'm going to play that video for the viewers. Here we go.
I had just read that on the Facebook pointed out that it was pointed out that Facebook, of all the misinformation, 60% of the misinformation came from 12 individuals. That's what the article said. So I was asked that question about what do I think is happening? Facebook isn't killing people. These 12 people are out there giving misinformation. Anyone listening to it is getting hurt by it. It's killing people. It's bad information. My hope is that Facebook, instead of taking it personally that somehow I'm saying Facebook is killing people, that they would do something about the misinformation, the outrageous misinformation about the vaccine. That's what I meant.
Now, the real interesting thing is, I believe it was like the Huffington Post or The Verge or BuzzFeed or some publication like Washington Post or something. They released a list of 12 people that were leading the misinformation campaign on COVID vaccine. Now, I want you guys to take a look at this, right? This is a list of the people that were. So look what it says. How do you feel about the so-called censor of countering digital hate publishing the following hit list of individuals to be canceled or deleted? So you got Robert F. Kennedy there. You have Riza Islam, Barbara Lowe Fisher, and a bunch of people I never even heard of. So they already have their scapegoat. Oh, let's blame these guys for people not wanting to be vaccinated. So take me across your thoughts about that. Why do you think Biden is pivoting, saying, no, Facebook is not killing people. It's these 10, 12 individuals that are killing people. Riz Islam, who's a member of the Nation of Islam, Robert F. Kennedy, who's part of the great dynasty. So what do you think about that, Dino?
I think this is all going to come down to a debate about that infamous Section 230. If you think about it, let's just go back to Trump and the previous administration. They were complaining about the same thing, saying that there's too much misinformation going around. So we want to repeal Section 230. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, just because the opinion has flipped, now this administration is saying the exact same thing. So I think that we're dealing with a really nasty problem of opinion here. Like, in other words, which one do you think is misinformation? Is misinformation saying don't, or I'll say second guess the VAX? I think we can't actually say it, but, second guess that until there's more tests. Or should you question anything? Is that misinformation? Or is misinformation saying everything's just fine, go ahead and do it? There's just two different opinions going around about it. And I think that actually ties into, some other things that we talk about this nation being in the middle of a peaceful divorce. I think, we just think two different things and that's it.
No, I think it's misinformation that the U.S. government worked with Nazis after World War II. I think that's misinformation. Or what about FDR knowing about the attack on Pearl Harbor and not doing anything? I think that's misinformation as well.
Yes, it is. And the Gulf of Tonkin.
So I'm seeing this trend where we're becoming the USSR, the United Soviet Union, right? Stalin used to do a bunch of these tactics when he was the prime minister or president over there. So why are we stepping into authoritarian footprints or blueprints? It's like they're like copying it now. Like if you were like a fascist or a dictator and a very, powerful one, it seems like they're stealing their tactics now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look around, I want to say, I think I could, without exaggerating, say that most of the world still functions under the kind of political system that they had for centuries or millennia. There's a ruler or a ruling class, and then there's everybody else. And I think that the Western world in particular has put a stop to that. And they have the means now to get it back. I actually read an interesting quote from Aldous Huxley recently. And this was back in like the 1950s. He said, soon we're going to have the technology that enables the ruling class, who was always there. They're now going to be enabled to enact their policies. And I think that's what we're dealing with now. And I got to say, it's the very instrument that we're using right now, the internet, big tech everywhere, that is allowing a lot of this to happen.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump into a lighter topic. And that lighter topic is chimps killing gorillas. So for the first time in history, scientists witnessed the first killing of a gorilla via chimpanzee, right? So here we got it from Gizmodo. For the first time ever, scientists witnessed chimps killing gorillas. New research details two fatal encounters in which wild chimpanzees attacked and killed gorillas. It's a rare example of one great ape species attacking another, and scientists are worried that climate change might have something to do with it. Have you read that article, Dino?
Yes, I did. So I've got a few thoughts on that. And sorry, but I'm not going to remain lighthearted. I know that's what we were trying to do, but hey, man. So, of course, they're going to link it to climate change. And you know what? I'll even say, just for sake of argument, let's let them have that might be true. That as the wilderness, jungle, wetlands, whatever starts to recede, the food supply dries up, they start encountering each other more, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, let's just say that that's actually happening. But if you read through that article a little bit more, you'll also see that they haven't been studying them in that much detail for that long. So I think it's just like we say about these COVID tests, the more you test, the more you're going to find positive. The more you watch these gorillas, the more, or the chimps, whatever, the more you're going to find them doing things that you didn't expect them to do, because they always did it. We just never saw it.
Yeah, they did a great job with the headline, because when you read the article, it says that a group of 26 chimpanzees attacked 5 gorillas, right? And they, in both instances, they killed the infant gorilla. So they're not killing silverbacks. They're not killing the mother. They're
Right.
killing the infants, and it's taking 26 of them to kill the infant gorilla, which I find really interesting because let's just use their hypothetical, climate change, right? I'm pretty sure they've been battling for years. Chimps and gorillas, orangutans,
Hmm.
Chimpanzees are notoriously very brutal animals. Gorillas, for the most part, don't never attack humans. Chimpanzees have that record of doing that. So I just think that it's a fascinating topic, but they're killing a baby. There's no props in killing a baby gorilla, brother.
I mean, you're right, but we're talking about chimps. I don't think they're too worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, 26 chimps have to jump 5 gorillas. I find that hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're finding a lot of these kind of things. I should have pulled up a link for it to show everybody, but the more that there's cameras going around, the more people are watching these things. They're finding more and more crazy footage. I saw a clip of like maybe 15 otters, something that everybody thinks is cute. Man, a big alligator swam too close to them and they tore that thing up.
Oh, so the baby otters are killing alligators? Is that what you're saying?
Hardcore. Yes. Yes, man. They swarmed that thing and there was nothing he could do about it. So I think these things have always happened. Just now we're seeing it and they're going to make a sensationalized story out of it.
Absolutely. So we're going to pivot on to the next segment. And the main topic, which I made the fabulous thumbnail for, it's the billionaire space race. Why do the elites want to leave Earth so bad? Why do they want to leave so bad, brother?
Well,
Do you think it's some Prometheus type stuff going on out here?
I'm not, you know what, man? I actually kind of wish there was, because that would be kind of neat if we could find out something like that, But I don't know if it's that interesting, man. I think we're talking about just a bunch of rich guys that are just trying to one up each other. And I think in a more concrete possibility, man, it's going to be like the 1600s, There's going to be people sailing, like they're sailing across this ocean and boom, there's a new place to colonize, a new place to take over. And I think that that's going to be pretty much what happens, except we're moving into some very uncharted areas, different atmospheres and God knows what we're going to encounter.
What do you think is the fascination of the uber rich wanting to do space travel?
The fascination of it, I think it's just because they can. I mean, I know that sounds awfully simple, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. It's because they can, we can't. We can fly. That used to be just for rich people. Being on cruise liners used to be just for rich people. So this is just their next step. They can go to space, and we can't. And yeah, there's a real good chance that they're going to want to stay there too.
So is there anything interesting from that article that you want to put out to the people?
Well, as much as I'd like to say yes, I'm gonna have to tell you absolutely not. It was a very it was a very sensationalized headline, and it was just talking about how they did it. I think that the story pretty much went nowhere.
Okay. So I'm gonna show this video to people, right? This is Jeff Bezos landing, right? Which I think they had the price tag at $30 million to fly 5 minutes into space, right? Which he has tons of money. He could do that type of stuff, right? So we're gonna. I just want you to see this, Dino, because wait until you see what the hell he come out with. So you have Jeff Bezos coming out in a damn cowboy hat. So not only is he the richest man in the world, he thinks he's a freaking space cowboy, right?
Mhm.
So I remember seeing a long time ago, Eric Weinstein, he was on Joe Rogan's show, and he said it's time to leave the planet, right? Now I started thinking, I'm like, why are the uber rich, the elites, why would they want to go to the moon, to Mars, et cetera, right? And I started thinking, I was like, oh, there's no Bible, there's no Quran, there's no laws in space. So the elites could create a paradise without the dogma of religion, right? Similar to Brave New World. Then they could have their utopia, how Jeffrey Epstein was trying to cook up whatever he was trying to cook up, right?
Mhm.
So the fact that there isn't a Bible or Quran to control the moon or Mars, why, in your opinion, why do you think they want to later colonize these planets to eventually live in?
I think you nailed it. Saying no Quran, no Bible, whatever. That's exactly why the first people supposedly sailed to the New World. They were supposedly fleeing religious persecution, but it was actually more of a political thing. You had, after just a couple of generations here, obviously they decided to make their own country out of it. So I think it's just plain old colonization, by a bunch of rich guys. They get to do it and we don't. And just like you said, they're going to be able to start this on their rules, on their terms, without us pesky people getting in their way.
So you have Elon Musk, who owns SpaceX. You have Jeff Bezos, who owns Blue Origin. You have Richard Branson, who owns Virgin Galactic, right? Now, the new frontier is space tourism, and I believe Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic are more in that realm right there, right? SpaceX is the one handling all the contracts from NASA because I think about 100 rockets orbited into space a year annually. Now, when you compare that to about 100,000 flights that fly out annually on Earth, just regular planes, right? So you have to think about, why are we only orbiting to Earth 100 times a year, right? And the reason is because before SpaceX came into the picture, it costed about $800 million each rocket to orbit into space. Now with SpaceX, with his Falcon Heavy engines, it's the price range is more in the tens to $20 million price range. So space exploration has become more affordable. So what do you think are the chances of colonizing Mars or the moon?
Well, instead of me saying what are the chances of it actually happening, because I can't answer that, because there's going to be too many variables, the atmosphere, the temperature, or whatever. But I can say the chance of them trying to find a way to do it, I want to say is 100%. I'm pretty sure this is exactly what they have in mind.
Now, according to the research I have done, it would take to terraform the terrain in Mars to make it like Earth. It would take 1,000 years, but with technology that we don't have currently. So I just find it really interesting that these billionaires are now doing what JFK and the Russians did back in the days. They're having a space race now. Who
Yeah.
could have the biggest, most safest flight exploration into space?
Well, I think that we can almost compare this as a microcosm of what's happening in the real world, that corporations have pretty much replaced governments as the ruling power. So just like governments were the ones that were doing the space race before, now corporations are. So it's just sort of a natural evolution between the two.
Absolutely. So you got anything else you want to add to this topic, Dino?
Not on that one, except I know they're going and we won't be with them.
How unfortunate. Well, the good thing about this is hopefully they do more billionaires and millionaires go into space and their rocket, doesn't come back.
They don't come back. Yeah.
So that's probably the most optimistic point to have in all this.
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff Bezos doesn't come back next time. Not saying that I want him dead. I'm just saying that allegedly, if his rocket was to not engage anymore, his rocket blusters, it wouldn't be a bad thing, because he already
lose any sleep.
Taxes. So we don't really need you here, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna segue into our next topic, and it's related to the weather. Dubai makes its first fake rain clouds to combat a drought that was plaguing their nation. So do you have the article about that, Dino?
No.
Oh, okay. So let me pull it up real quick. Dubai fake weather. I had the tab up. I deleted it by accident then. Here we go. So I'm going to show you guys this article. Let's see. This is from Newsweek, and it says Dubai creates fake rain using drones to battle 122-degree heat. So people are probably surprised by this. They probably never thought that the government is capable of these sort of technological advances, but that's not the case at all. This goes back all the way to the 40s with Project Circus. And not only that, the first use of weather modification weapons happened during the Vietnam War during 1967 and 1972. And that was under the name Popeyes. Now, of course, Popeyes is an acronym, right? And basically, it was a military seeding project carried out by the Air Force. Its goal was to flood the supply of routes used by the North Vietnamese into South Vietnam by seeding the clouds in the area and creating monsoons, right? Now, the interesting thing about that, right, is that the person who sponsored that operation was no other than your boy Henry S. Kissinger, right?
Ah.
Not only was he had a partnership with the CIA in that endeavor, right? And without the authorization of the secretary, Melvin Leard, who later on denied the existence of the weather weapon being deployed. So the CIA and Henry Kissinger, who was the Secretary of State, was going over the head of the secretary that was supposed to be in control of that department. So later after that, the United Nations issues a treaty prohibiting the use of weather modification weapons to kill or maim people, right? Then after that, the Geneva Convention also outlaws the use of weather weapons, and that's as of 1978, right? Now, for the people that don't know about the Geneva Convention, it was created after World War II, and it was established international legal standards for humanitarian treatment during war, right? So basically, you could do weather modification, but not to kill people, right? So that begs the question, what really happened in Haiti with the earthquake, right?
Oh, sure.
So what if you could just, clean your hands? I had nothing to do with that. How can you tell that the CIA was seeding clouds to create hurricanes or create freaking earthquakes?
I think you could tell that they did it, just like the same way you tell that a lawyer is lying. It's when his mouth is moving. I think pretty much anything that you can blame on these guys, they did. Just like if you look at the internet, everybody now knows that it was actually created, I want to say maybe the mid to late 70s. And of course, we didn't even see it until the early 90s, you know? So wherever we are, you can be guaranteed that technology for the government or for the billionaires, whatever, is going to be way more advanced, you know? So we're hearing about Dubai making rain for a benevolent reason, that they just need rain. It was too hot. It's technically a good thing. You can rest assured that they could likely cause a hurricane, cause an earthquake, or whatever, because we're hearing about the rain aspect of it, you know? So whatever we're hearing about, they've got 100 times worse bottled up somewhere.
Now, here's the problem with sea clouding, right? You lay the risk of ozone depletion, the continuation of ocean acidification, which means carbons being trapped in the water, making the water hotter, driving out the animal life in the neighborhood or whatever, right? And then you're changing the rainfall patterns, right? So that's been a problem with seeding of clouds, that if you create too much rain, it can have disastrous effects for the environment and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we also have operations where we do weather modification, right? And I'm going to show the people this video of the former CIA director, John Brennan, right? He's speaking about an operation, right? It's called SAIs, right? Before, the people used to think of it as chemtrails, right? People say chemtrails, chemtrails, chemtrails. And then the government will say contrails, right? Contrails are not chemtrails. Contrails are condensation trails observed behind airplanes, right? It's basically water vapor produced by the combustion of fuel in airplane engines. So chemtrails has more to do with them protecting the earth from the sun. So what they do is they put many particles and metals into the earth to make it more cloudy, like Britain or something like that, right? And one of the metals they use is a silver iodide, right? And it has very negative effects towards humans and mammals as well. So I'm gonna let him speak real quick.
Having significantly larger proportions of retired people and older people relative to working age citizens. Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection.
So you hear that, folks? Stratospheric aerosol injections. So the government is admitting that they spray chemicals in the sky, which those chemicals are probably flapping on your head right now, right? Not only that, so let's let this evil man talk for a second.
SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat, in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be.
So it just came to my head, right? It's only good to do these sort of things when it's in the name of climate change. So this is the government's main excuse for everything now. Climate change, climate change, climate change. So let's let him finish.
Moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away.
Did you catch that?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he's saying, in the name of climate change, we might have to damage your community or your country to protect ours.
Mm-hmm.
So for the folks out there, what is stratospheric aerosol injections and why do we need it to govern? This is from the Carnegie Institute. Climate change is already here. The world is not reducing and removing emissions fast enough to avoid the dangerous global warming. Scientists are exploring new ideas to cool the planet. One is called SAI, stratospheric aerosol injection. The idea is to spray particles in the stratosphere, which will reflect sunlight and reduce global temperatures. It could be relatively cheap to deploy and quick acting. But it also brings a big risk, and there are no effective global systems in the place to govern it. We have no time to waste. The window may be closing to create an effective governance that looks at all the tools potentially available. It could have unequal effects. One place could get more rain, another could get less. Depending on the materials it uses, it could damage the ozone layer. This can cause health and environmental problems. Stopping it suddenly could cause rapid temperature rise that could be disruptive to human society and be dangerous for many species. Here we go. So that sentence alone shows you that they already began this process. This is old video. This is not from 2019. It's been uploaded 2019. This is from like 2013. They're saying it could cause rapid temperature rise that would be disruptive to human society. What do we see now? What do they constantly complain about? The Death Valley hit his highest temperature ever in the existence of human recording. So we have to ask the question, what role does our government have to do with the rise in temperature during our existence?
I think they have a huge part in it. So actually, I'm going to bring up something here and let me show you guys something. And here we go. Yeah. So good old Bill Gates. Actually, hold up. Let me give you the headline here. Kind of messing this up. A Bill Gates venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. What could go wrong? I think that headline in itself just nails it. What could go wrong? You know, there's been so many instances of us fooling with nature and it not really working out for us. Let's just take one. Actually, I'll tangent here just for a second. Let's just take the killer bees, for example. You know, it was a European bee hybridized with an African bee, and it's very aggressive. It just, you know, everybody knows killer bees now. But the point is, they didn't exist in nature. We created them. You know, every time we do something stupid like this, it bites us in the ass. You know, I could even say here in Louisiana, maybe like 100 years ago, they imported not a marsupial, just a rodent from South America here. And they originally brought it here just for its fur or whatever. It ended up taking over. It's very destructive. And now there's way too many of them. So anyway, all right. So I digress on that, but back to Bill Gates here, you know, so billionaire founder Bill Gates is financially backing the development of sun dimming technology that would potentially reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, triggering a global cooling effect. You know, do we actually want that? You know, do we want global cooling? We should just keep our hands off of it, period. You know, so along with that, let me go ahead and tangent again. And I'm going to bring up another example of our policies gone wrong.
That could be a show in itself.
It absolutely could be, yeah. So here's one of my pet peeves. Why isn't California using more prescribed burns to reduce fire risk? Okay. Well, I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing to you. I'll just summarize it. In general, for I want to say thousands of years, the Native Americans, whoever was here, knew that if you had a controlled burn, you could mitigate the risk of an out of control wildfire because you'd be getting rid of the underbrush and leaving just the healthy foliage, Well, luckily, thanks to our brilliant people in government, they've put so many restrictions, regulations, permits, whatever, the whole 9 yards on trying to do a controlled burn that they're pretty much only done on personal property, and you've still got to fight to get a permit. On federal lands or even state lands, they're pretty much just not even done. And what have we seen in recent years? Everybody's seen it, a whole lot of wildfires in California. So that's just something else that we can chalk up to us fooling around with nature and not doing the right thing, and it bites us in the ass.
Incredible. Freaking incredible. Why would Bill Gates? So here's the thing, right? Which I don't understand. The government already has a operation SAIs, stratospheric aerosol injections. Why would Bill Gates want to be involved in this? The same guy that's involved in Monsanto, Roundup. He's also involved in the vaccinations of Indians and many of those Indians being paralyzed from the vaccines, vaccinating kids in Africa, vaccinating us over here. You have why would he? Does he want dominance?
I think so. I think anytime he or any of these guys does something, just like we said earlier in this episode, you got to wonder why they're doing it. And especially with this guy, because everything is so high profile, you can usually see it might take a year, 2 years, or unfortunately, even longer. It takes a while to see the results of what he's doing, but that's when we find out why he did it. So you can say, is he doing it for control? Is he doing it for money? I say yes, all of the above. We see as he's investing in vegan stuff, fake meat, whatever you want to call it, he's buying up farmland. Kind of think about it. You're investing in these things, you're buying up farmland. Is it because you're going to grow all of the soybeans necessary for it? Or is it because you want to stop the farming of livestock? Either way, kind of the same result. He wins.
We the people charge Bill Gates with crimes against humanity. May he burn in hell.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to pivot to our next topic. And are electric cars good for the environment? So you want to spearhead that, Dino?
Yeah, sure. So, to me, this kind of ties in to, to what we were just talking about. California, especially since they're the ones trying to push the electric cars on everybody, is having trouble now, Even though it's electric, you're getting the electricity from somewhere. Right now you're still burning fossil fuels to get the electricity. One of the biggest problems with it, though, is they're actually mining the seafloor for a lot of the minerals needed to make the batteries. So again, what we're touching on now is us doing something that's supposedly good for the environment, but just making a whole mess because we don't know what the result of this seafloor mining is going to do. There's no way that we can judge it yet.
Now the C4 mining, right? They're doing that to create their batteries, and the batteries they use is lithium batteries, correct?
Yes, it is.
Now, when that stuff leaks into the river, that's some of the most dangerous stuff that could happen to the environment.
Mm-hmm.
No one talks about it. Everybody just turns the other eye. Not only that, kids in the Congo, they dig and mine for this type of stuff all the time. So further exploiting third world countries, further exploiting Africa, you know, the usual stuff, you know.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Business as usual.
So you said the Biden administration has this initiative to increase the number of electric car buyers.
Yes.
Do you have that article pulled up?
No, I do not.
I'm gonna pull it up. So here's the plan. The plan is to make the earth greener, right? Agenda 2030, Agenda 25. They want sustainability, right? These are their words. Let's see. Can't find the article right now, but because it's probably spelled it wrong. So what else you got on this topic?
That's it for that, man. Like I was saying, it's just you had said earlier that it's okay whenever they want to do something for a green reason, to help the environment, to help climate change. We're only making it worse. And then when they make it worse, they're going to want to repair it with another Band-Aid that's actually worse than the first one that they had.
Now, California is spearheading this initiative, right? As of now, I believe only 1.7 million vehicle sales annually for electric, right? Now, the Biden administration wants that number to soar to 8.5 million by 2025, right? So why is it this constant push, right? There's already a debate whether that would hamper the power grid. A lot of these Tesla vehicles, when they're charging, that's electricity coming out of the power grid that rate buyers, that at the end of the day, our electricity bill is going to go up. But people are thinking that electric cars are cool, which they are cool. I wish I had a Tesla. So not only that, right? The plants to create these electric cars emit more emissions than those with engines, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I was getting at earlier, saying that, all of these things are built and or powered somehow by fossil fuels, at least for now. If somebody comes up with some way better way that they can make solar that can power the world or something, well, fine, knock yourself out. But for now, it's only making things worse.
Absolutely. Now I think it was a New York Times article where they were saying if you start a car with 0 miles, one is an engine, the other is electric, and they're right off the lot. What it took to create that electric car emitted more carbon emissions than the one with the engine. Here's the tricky part, though. Throughout its course, let's say the electric car is 10 years old, has 100,000 miles, and the one with the engine is 10 years old and has 100 miles as well. That car, that engine one, will emit more carbon emission than the electric car, even though what it took emitted more emission in the beginning stages. So their argument is saying that, well, cars are bad for emissions throughout time, which is true. But electric cars' impact on the environment won't be that much that these people are saying that it will. I read a recent article by Politico, and they were basically, this guy did a study, right? I'm gonna find it right now. I have it pulled up. He says, my analyst shows that electric vehicles will reduce them compared to new internal combustion vehicles, but based on my EIA projections of the number of new electric vehicles, the net reduction of CO2 emissions between 2018 and 2050 would be only about 0.5% of total forecast U.S. energy-related carbon emission. Such a small change will have no impact whatsoever on the climate and thus have no economic benefit. So what's going on here?
Well, like I said, man, my opinion earlier, I think that there's something in it for anybody. Let me bring up something right here. I like this comment that just popped up here. Thanks to Rebel Music NYC, the technology will catch up. Let me hop on that for a second, because doing stuff like this, we can tend to be like really negative. It's real easy to bring up the bad side, the conspiracy, whatever, but I'm hoping that what Rebel Music NYC is thinking is correct, that the technology will catch up and it will be worth it eventually, and I think that there is a possibility of that happening, so thanks for bringing that up, because I do think we need to look at the possible good side of this.
Now, the argument that routinely put forward contrasts the clean image of electric cars is that pollution behind the manufacturing process of the batteries. There is indeed a range of rare earth metals that make up the composition of the battery, and the extraction of the manipulation can contribute to carbon emissions. So there's mixed reviews on this. You're looking up the article. Eight other states following California lead. California lawmaker introduced legislation to ban all. So California is planning on banning all internal combustion engines by 2040. Do you think
all new ones? Is it all engines or all new ones?
Banning the sale of all combustible engines by 2040.
Okay.
Have you found that article, Dino?
Nope. I'm just a mess with these articles today, man. Yeah. And I'm still looking too. But either way, man, they want to ban, combustion engines. There's going to be an awful lot of older cars still out on the street, and that's one of the ways that I think, is that if you want to be green, buy an older car. Now you just prevented one new car from being made and making that much more pollution, that much more trash, that much more of a problem. Just buy an older one.
So it seems to me that this is also another plot to attack the poor.
It is.
So if you're planning on banning all combustible engine cars from being sold, because many other states will hop on California, which that's the trend all the time. So let's say we have a car that's 150,000 miles on it. This person has a job, makes $30,000, $40,000 a year, has kids, has a wife, can't really afford to buy a new car. So why do you think they know these sort of things? They know that if they're transitioning from combustible engines to electric cars, that people will have to buy it. Now, the government's been issuing rebates and tax credits if you have purchased electric cars. So what do you think will get in the way of their Green New Deal, their green push?
What would get in the way of it? I don't think anything is going to get in the way of it. But you were just asking, is that going to squeeze the poor people or whatever? And absolutely. But this is something that the government does over and over again. They get in bed with big corporations, big business, and they try to mandate you to purchase something from them. Just like you have to have insurances on things. Who do you think lobbied for that? The insurance companies.
Absolutely.
Even, okay, you know what, man? Let's just bring up the vaccine. Oh, can't say it. The V word, let's just bring that up. Someone's paying for it. You got a lot of people going around getting it for free. Someone's paying for it. I guarantee it. And they're making billions off of it.
So
and that's what this is about. They're going to make you buy something so their buddies can get richer.
So I'm going to reply to Rebel Music's comment. He says Tesla goal is to be cheaper than a brand new combustion engine car. That is correct. That's why Elon Musk has partnered up with the Chinese, because he needs that manufacturing power to compete with Fords, to compete with Hondas, to compete with Toyota. So a cheaper electric car, I do think, is better, period, than anything else. But there's always a plot, always a plan that the Democrats have currently. You constantly hear climate change, climate change, climate change. At what point do they say that we need to tax the population for their carbon emissions? So a carbon tax on people. They're already doing it on manufacturing firms, manufacturing companies. If you emit this much of carbon emissions, you have to pay this amount of money. How long until they tax us regular citizens, and saying, oh, you breathed about, 10 gallons of, you put out about 10 gallons of carbon out there. I'm going to need a nice little 2,000 right there. What is the possibility of that?
That's coming.
Do you think that's possible?
That's definitely coming. I don't know if they're going to be that blatant about it, and say, we're going to definitely tax you, but they'll find a way to get it out of you and say that because of your footprint, as they like to call it now, because of your footprint, we're going to charge you X amount.
The elite, the scientists of the world, they already want the population to decrease. So people are already not giving birth. Birth rates are already drastically decreasing. Sperm counts are drastically decreasing. It's in the food, it's in the water, it's in the air, it's in the suntan lotion. I believe there was a recent article about Johnson & Johnson's manufacturing of sunscreen, how it was giving cancer to people.
Yep, definitely.
So you see this steady nudging. So like for Muslim countries, they can't have too much change at once, if you know what I mean, right? So if they want to have women driving in cars, they have to like slowly do it. Mm-hmm. So they don't enrage the ultra conservatives that live there, right? So you already see the exhilaration during the COVID pandemic that they're already saying, put your dirty diaper on your face, shut up, do as you're told, get your stinking vaccine. I mean, your good vaccine. What does this all lead to?
Oh, it's all going to the same place. We already see that they're going to tie climate into COVID. They're going to tie it all together. And just like you said, it's a way to tax everybody, even if it's not called a tax. That's what it is. And that's where we're headed. And like I said, somebody's paying for that stuff right now. So whoever it is, in a sense, is being taxed. Someone's paying for it. These companies won't do it for nothing.
What do you think is the next tax that's going to be implemented on the population?
Wow. That's a good one. You should have hit me up ahead of time for that, so I could have thought about it. I like that question. Let's just go with carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint, right?
That's it.
So that's going to conclude our broadcast. Thank you guys for watching.
And big thanks to Rebel Music and NYC, man. You know, we like being debated or people bringing up points. Please always feel free to do that. And thank you very much.
Absolutely. So that concludes our broadcast. That was EP3. Hopefully we see you guys at EP4. All right, Dino.
Later.
Love you, brother.
Peace out.